James Gunn has made a surprising change to Superman's origins that has left the fandom divided and theorizing the coming of a major Superman villain. But what is that change and who is that villain? Let's discuss it in today's video. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Now most of you must have seen the Superman movie, and whether you like it or not is completely up to you. But there is one thing about the movie that has left everyone confused and divided, and yes, that is none other than Superman's parents. Now we all know the story Krypton is going to destroy. Two parents sent their son to another planet so he can survive, and using his powers can help the people of that planet. Classic Superman lore, it's nothing new. We all knew this since the first Superman comic. Nothing has really changed since then, but now it looks like Gunn is going to go in a different direction. In Superman, Superman's parents didn't just send him to Earth to save him, they have sent him to conquer it. Yeah, you heard that right. And no, this isn't just a subtle hint or theory floating around online. This was literally stated in the movie. When Lex Luthor manages to decode the corrupted second half of Jor-El's original holographic message, he plays it publicly, and what it reveals changes everything we thought we knew about Superman's origins. Jor-El tells Kal-El to rule over the weak and simple Earthlings. He talks about Kal-El taking multiple wives to help repopulate Krypton, and even urges him to kill anyone who comes in his way. It's not a misinterpretation. This version of Superman was meant to dominate, not inspire. Krypton's destruction in this version wasn't just a tragedy, it was a call to colonize. Here is exactly what happened. The movie begins with Clark 3 years into his super career, no Krypton flashbacks. At the fortress, he accesses the first half of his parents' message, loving, hopeful, familiar. The corrupted version suddenly gets decoded by Lex, using nanotech and linguistic AI. The public learns his own parents wanted him to conquer Earth and turn it into a new home. Superman refuses this version of his heritage and walks away from that destiny-conscious choice, even though Clark truly believes the second half is real. And yes, like everyone, I also thought that this is Lex's game. He altered the message to his gain, but that did not happen. First, Mr. Terrific assures Clark that the recovered message is authentic, and then even Lex says that the message was not fake, it was real. And if that's not enough, James Gunn has also confirmed this change is deliberate. He said that he wanted to explore the idea of Superman having to choose between the legacy of his birth parents and the values instilled in him by his adoptive ones, the Kents. In interviews, Gunn even said that he allowed himself to make changes where they might work and be interesting for the DCU. If you guys remember that the original title for the movie was Superman Legacy, and we were thinking that if it's the first installment of a series, then isn't Legacy an odd choice? Usually that type of title comes when the franchise is ending. This is what Gunn meant by that title. The legacy he hinted was not of Superman's, but his parents. In interviews and press notes, Gunn says he's reimagined Jor-El's original purpose not to save humanity, but to subjugate it. He explains he wanted Superman's origins to be interesting for the DCU without betraying the character's core. That means the traditional Kryptonian parental legacy of altruism has been replaced with colonization. Now, people are obviously divided on this. Some people are downright rejecting this change, calling it unfaithful to Superman lore, and some are embracing the change, calling it a fresh take on the character. Personally, I don't like this. Superman's real parents have always been a core part of his story and character. Say whatever you want about Man of Steel. I completely get that it's not everyone's cup of tea, but seeing Jor-El guiding his son, inspiring him to save humans despite their flaws, it was beautiful. And yes, I know people say that John Kent was done dirty, but people forget the reason he died was to save his son. As a child, Clark saved a bus of children from drowning, and in return, one of the children's parents basically called him a freak. This was a father who knew that people would be afraid of him even if he did good. And let's be honest, this is the reality. I mean, a superpowered alien comes to this Earth claiming he's here to help us. Who will believe him? I certainly won't. And that's why the traditional version of Superman's origin has always worked so well. It's not just about powers or alien heritage. It's about choosing to be human. It's about hope being stronger than fear, and love being stronger than blood. Jor-El, in most versions, represents that final act of love, sending his only son away. Not to conquer, but to inspire. And Jonathan Kent? He's the one who teaches Clark the most important lesson of all. Just because you can do something doesn't mean you should. His death wasn't just for shock value. It was about sacrifice, the painful cost of protecting your child from a world that isn't ready. So yeah, seeing Superman's father turned into a colonizer, but for now, as a lifelong fan, it just doesn't sit right with me. Honestly, I still can't believe that we live in a time where Bardock is canonically a better father than Jor-El. Alright, with that out of the way, let's move on, because this change might also be laying the foundation for a major villain. Let's talk about who that could be. Now, whenever a talk about an AI villain arises, Marvel fans ultimately think of Ultron. But in the DC world, there's one name that instantly comes to mind. A villain who's long overdue for a live-action debut. Someone Superman fans have been waiting years to see on the big screen. And that's none other than Brainiac. For those who aren't familiar, Brainiac isn't just some killer robot. He's one of Superman's most dangerous enemies, a hyper-intelligent alien AI who travels the universe collecting knowledge by shrinking cities and destroying entire planets. Yeah, not exactly a gentle librarian. In some versions of the comics and animated shows, Brainiac is even the one responsible for the destruction of Krypton. So if you're talking about someone with a direct link to Superman's past, this guy is at the top of the list. Now here's where things get really interesting. The idea that Jor-El and Lara sent Superman to Earth to conquer it, that cold, calculated message, it sounds a lot like Brainiac's philosophy, and a lot of fans are already theorizing that maybe, just maybe, he tampered with that message. Think about it. If Brainiac is out there in the DCU, manipulating things behind the scenes, planting seeds of doubt, what better way to mess with Superman than to rewrite his origin to make him question everything: his family, his mission, even his place on Earth? And here's the kicker, James Gunn actually said he considered Brainiac as the main villain for Superman before choosing Lex Luthor. So it's not just fan theory. This idea is very much on the table. Honestly, that would be amazing, but imagine a movie where Superman has to go up against an AI that doesn't just challenge him physically, but mentally and emotionally. An enemy who knows Krypton better than he does. One who thinks Clark isn't the rightful heir to Krypton's legacy, he is. That's the kind of villain who pushes Superman to his limits. That's the kind of story that makes this new DCU exciting. And if this twist about his parents is the first domino, Brainiac might just be the next one to fall. However, there's another villain theory that most people aren't really talking about. And honestly, I think it deserves way more attention. That villain is the Eradicator. Now, if you've never heard of him, don't worry, you're not alone. The Eradicator isn't exactly a top-tier name in the DC universe. He's not someone casual fans bring up in the same breath as Lex Luthor, Brainiac, or Darkseid, and that's probably why he's not getting much buzz. But here's the thing, the Eradicator actually fits this new Superman origin perfectly. In the comics, the Eradicator is a Kryptonian AI created to preserve the purity of Krypton's culture, not just its people, but its ideals. It's cold, rigid, and views emotions, especially human ones, as a weakness. Now think about the message Jor-El and Lara leave behind in Superman. The talk of conquering Earth, rebuilding Krypton, spreading their legacy, that's exactly the kind of ideology the Eradicator was programmed to protect. He's not a villain who wants power for himself, he wants to fulfill a mission. And if that mission involves wiping out Earth's influence on Kal-El, so be it. That kind of character would challenge Superman in a very personal way, not just physically, but morally. He'd be like a mirror of what Kal-El could have become if he had followed his parents' path. And it actually makes a lot of sense in the bigger picture, because if you're going to explore Superman's identity crisis torn between Krypton and Earth, the Eradicator is the perfect embodiment of one extreme, a villain who says, forget Earth, you belong to Krypton, be who you were meant to be. It's honestly a cool angle, and while it's not as flashy as Brainiac, it could make for a really emotional, character-driven conflict, especially in a sequel, or even in something like Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow, where Kryptonian legacy might play a huge role. So yeah, the Eradicator might not be the biggest name in the DCU, but with this new origin, he might just be the right villain for this new Superman. Lastly, there's one more theory floating around, and while it's a bit of a long shot, it's still worth talking about. Some fans believe that the Jor-El we hear in that message might not actually be Jor-El at all. What if, and hear me out, what if that was General Zod? Now I know that sounds like a stretch at first, but think about it. In the comics and movies, Zod has always been portrayed as this militant, power-obsessed Kryptonian who believes in Krypton's superiority. Someone who would absolutely support a plan to conquer Earth in the name of restoring Kryptonian glory. Let's take a quick look back. In Man of Steel, Michael Shannon's Zod was literally trying to terraform Earth and turn it into a new Krypton. He didn't want to destroy the planet out of hate, he wanted to rebuild Krypton, no matter the cost to humanity. And in Superman 2 from the classic Christopher Reeve era, Zod, played by Terrence Stamp, comes to Earth and demands the humans kneel before him. Again, domination, superiority, control. So if someone like Zod had access to Kryptonian tech, especially if he somehow tampered with the holographic message at the fortress, it's not that far-fetched to think he could have replaced or altered Jor-El's message to fit his own agenda. It would explain the sudden shift in tone between the first hopeful message and the second half that talks about conquering Earth. It could be a twist where Superman and the audience have been misled from the very start. Plus, this would open the door to Zod's return in a very different way. Not just as a physical threat, but as a manipulator. A shadow over Clark's legacy. Maybe even a presence that haunts his journey as he tries to define his place in the world. Now, is this theory confirmed? No. And honestly, it's not the most likely path. But it would be a clever twist, especially if Gunn wants to reintroduce Zod with a fresh angle instead of just redoing Man of Steel all over again. Either way, whether it's Zod, Brainiac, the Eradicator, or someone entirely new, this change to Superman's origin is clearly setting the stage for something much bigger in the DCU. But the effects of this twist might not stop with Superman alone, because there's one character this revelation could impact even more, and that's Supergirl. In an interview, James Gunn explained that in the new DCU, Supergirl is actually younger than Superman. Her ship was delayed in space, so she arrives on Earth years after Clark. But the big difference? She didn't grow up here. While Clark was raised by the Kents, taught empathy, restraint, and what it means to be human, Kara's been isolated. She still holds on to those old-school Kryptonian beliefs, the pride, the legacy, the superiority. So if she hears that message from Jor-El, the one about conquering Earth, and rebuilding Krypton, she might not reject it like Clark did. She might believe in it. And that sets up a really fascinating dynamic between the two cousins, one raised by love, the other raised by loss, one shaped by humanity, the other still tied to Krypton's shadow. It's a brilliant foundation for her upcoming film Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, and maybe even a setup for a future conflict between them. Not a simple hero versus villain fight, but a deeper clash of identity, loyalty, and legacy. So yeah, this change to Superman's backstory, it's not just a twist, it's a ripple effect that could reshape the entire DC universe. Anyway, that's all for today's video. Let me know what you think about this bold new direction. Are you into it? Does it feel true to Superman's core, or does it go a step too far? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear your take, and if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more deep dives into the DCU. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Till then, take care, and bye.